Sentiment is surging. Today we're going to break it down for you. There's a lot of things happening in the market. Let's just jump right into it. I do want to thank our sponsor. That is iTrust Capital. Very easy for you guys to get involved in building out a crypto IRA. You can do this with both traditional crypto as well as metals. So all of this is available in the iTrust account. All you have to do is jump over to itrustcapital.com, use our link. It's going to give you a $100 funding reward just to get started, and do that. It does help us out. There's a lot of things happening not only today, but I think this week, that starts to layer in the potential of what we might see on either a new run here, or could we see some pullbacks that are waiting in the wings? A couple of things I want to focus on. U.S. and Iran are weighing further on negotiations to extend in a 2-week ceasefire. And here's kind of the breakdown. The Strait of Hormuz, the blockade is now, Trump's blockade, I should say, is now active. That's the one where he's blockading the blockade. The U.S. is proposing a 20-year nuclear suspension. Iran offered 5. China-linked sanctioned tanker is testing the blockade right now. We'll see if, what happens there. Saudi Arabia is coming in and saying, hey, stand down. Maybe we've got something here. And you got Vance, of course, going in there, pushing Iran to make a decision. One last thing to hit on here, Brent crude also falling under 100, as well as WTI. So both have started to come down. So the markets seem to be pricing in a deal that is in the works. I want to play a clip for you. This is Mark Cudmore breaking down, is this optimistic? Are we bullish now or not? Take a look.
Now it's a completely different scenario. What happened is now I think short term the optimism makes sense. First of all, negotiations are ongoing. Expectations for the weekend were always super low. So the fact that they did fail to reach an agreement wasn't a problem. The point is they didn't break down entirely. We still have negotiations there. So that's seen as a positive. Certainly investors are much more positive on the negotiations than they were a week ago. Second of all, part of the reason they're more positive is that the blockade of Iranian ships is really, really smart. Ultimately, Iran is being seen as a strategic or economic winner of the war up until a week or so ago, because its oil was getting out at elevated prices while the rest was getting blocked. And that's now been changed fundamentally by this. It's really cutting off their key kind of winning point. And then also the fact that the US Navy is going to implement a blockade of Iranian ports shows they've got enough naval assets in the region to soon start kind of building their own escort or kind of outlining their own safe passage through the strait, which means we're much closer to the reopening of the strait than we seem to be only a week or so ago. So around the conflict, the dynamic's very positive.
If you look at the possibility here on Polymarket, we are now edging up for an end to this conflict around April 30th. That seems to be, and it's flying fast here. So maybe this blockade is the pressure that Trump needs to put on Iran to get them at the table in terms of doing a deal. Kobe Isi broke one down, talking about the S&P 500 now officially up, and it's on the year, and it's just 1% away from hitting a new record high. This is insane. That's $550 billion per trading day for 10 straight days on that. Just kind of let that sink in for a minute. Of everything that's going on right now, and you have the S&P 500 cruising as though nothing is happening. That's it's just insane. I want to go to a clip because this is Tom Lee saying, well, maybe war has been good for stocks. Take a look.
Is there anything that is going to stop stocks right now, Tom? Because they just keep going up.
Well, I think stocks are holding up because the economy's actually doing better in the face of this war. And I know it sounds counterintuitive, but part of it is the defense spending, at $30 billion a month, and it may end up being, $60 billion a month. That's actually quite stimulative to the economy. This $20 rise in oil is only adding about $12 billion a month to the household burden. So on sort of net basis, the war is actually helping earnings right now. The market does have a really good way of sort of discounting outcomes. And I think the reason it's going up is I think we're going to end up with a favorable outcome.
For the markets right now, is it the Iran war? Is it corporate earnings, which are starting to roll out? Or is it interest rates? People can vote now by clicking on the QR code. How would Tom Lee vote on that?
Well, I would say that of those three, only one can create tail events on both sides, which is the Iran war. So I think that the most important thing to watch and to really be mindful of is the war.
All right, so I would agree. I think the war for the tailwinds on both sides, and also the longer lasting effect on how the markets can respond. Other things you got to look at are going to be fear and greed. And fear and greed in a very short period of time has really started to blossom a little bit. Remember, this was just back in February, and we were looking at, where is that? Yeah, 15, I think, 8 at the lowest. And then here we are at 54 right now. This always concerns me when we see these kind of movements in a very short period of time. And at the same time, seeing things like this right here, where you have Bitcoin breaking and getting another 5% gain. This is now extending out to 74K. Then you have things like this. Crypto is on track for what could be the largest liquidation event of 2026. It's 2.8 billion setting in right now, in forced crypto selling is expected to hit the market. This has happened on, guess what, IRS deadline. So do you guys think that this is a short run up to that April 15th, which is tomorrow, or do you feel this is just a blast through and we're going to see continued growth on both ETH and Bitcoin and a lot of these assets that have been moving, even the S&P 500? Let me know in the comments down below, bullish or bearish. Just put bullish, bearish. Let's go to this tweet right here, because one guy that is still bullish is, of course, Michael Saylor, and Strategy's portfolio is back in profit. And you can see it right there. It doesn't take much. They're up 10% right now, which is extensive when you look at this. And when you look at what Strategy is in right now, it's amazing to me that they are in profit in a time in which Bitcoin is trading under 80K. And the only reason I say that is because many people would say that we've been through a very significant bearish period, yet Strategy right now starting to show some signs of life. So pretty good moves there for sure. Speaking of that, if you just take a look at the Strategy chart and go all the way back into May of 22, this was the time in which Strategy actually bottomed ahead of Bitcoin. So is that maybe what is happening right now? And of course, Strategy has been absolutely on fire since then. If you're looking at where it's been trading, are we near another bottom here for Strategy, currently trading at 137? One last thing I want to show, if you just look at the high of where it was in November of 24 as to where it is right now, that is almost 80% down. So much like an altcoin in many cases that you would see. Is this a play right now? Would you guys go in on MicroStrategy as a hedge on what's happening with the digital asset side? Let me know down in the comments. Here was an interesting tweet by Pull Theory that the U.S. is now introducing a bill that would make stablecoin transactions completely tax-free. I thought we were trying to work on a bill that would make Bitcoin transactions tax-free. So how does that play into this going forward? I just don't get that. I want to play another clip here too, because all of this goes into one thing that matters the most for crypto, and that of course is clarity. And here's Tim Scott talking about how long. Take a look.
Well, the White House came out with a report just recently that suggested quite the opposite would be the case, that we have not seen any savings accounts leak into stable coins. We actually saw an increase in the number of dollars put into savings accounts since the third quarter of last year. I wanted to dig into those numbers to make sure that I understood and appreciated the reality versus the fiction of this, the flight of savings deposits. We haven't seen that, to be honest with you, since the passage of the Genius Act. So the question really is, what's the real issue? And the real issue is fear. Sometimes they say fear, false evidence appearing real. That's a fact today. We have not seen the leakage that people have talked about.
So when do you expect the markup of clarity?
Well, I won't be as clear on that as I was on Kevin Warsh, because there are three major components that need to be solved. Number one, the rewards issue. I believe we'll have that solved within the next 2 weeks. Number two, we got to make sure that the DeFi piece is in place, and I believe that that is almost as close as the rewards piece. And then number three, we need to make sure that every single Republican's on the same page at the same time. And frankly, I think that takes another couple of weeks for us to get there as well.
Lots of negotiations happening right now over the next few weeks. We will definitely be on the lookout as we get into that. Other things that are happening that are important to not only the market, but I think also the sentiment in general, and that of course will be Kevin Warsh and his new basically his new job at the Federal Reserve. Guess what? He disclosed assets over $100 million. What was interesting was the breakdown, And you can kind of see a little bit of it. Some of the names included Compound, this is DeFi platform, Optimism, ETH, Solana. So we went out and looked and said, all right, well, let's go take a look at some of what his asset structure looks like. And here's the breakdown. Infrastructure and ecosystem. He had Solana, Optimism, Lightning, and then a decentralized social platform. Consumer applications in Polymarket, Brave Browser, DYDX, Canvas, and even Friends with Benefits. So interesting. And then, of course, specialized tools. You had CrossMint, Dapper, Creator DAO, and I mean, this is a degen portfolio. So very interesting. He's on our side. He's on our side. So I'm assuming that that means we're going to start seeing some activity at the Fed. So I want to put out also, this is, of course, Paolo Ordino, the CEO of Tether, announcing the Tether wallet. This is a big deal because, one, it has quite a bit of an effect on what's going on around the world. The likelihood, Tether being the most active stablecoin out there, is the network that is getting ready to happen. If you go to the website, you can kind of see digital dollars. This is going to be Bitcoin, gold, and a lot of this is transacting on, guess what, Ethereum. And if you look at the actual ad that they were putting out there, they're just, I mean, they're going all in on this. So pretty big deal. And the unique thing is that this is going to end up not using the chain that is built on and controls most of the stablecoin. In fact, it's going to be using Ethereum within this. So imagine when this gets ready to go into other assets other than Bitcoin, ETH, XAUT, etc. This would be a big deal for sure. I want to play a clip here by Larry Fink, and he is talking about how Americans are investing.
40% of Americans do not invest in the financial markets, but the 60% have grown dramatically. And the only way this can make sense is a long-term optimistic view. And in almost every period of time in our lifetime, if you bought the dips, every time you would have benefited. I mean, think about it. My letter talks about if you invested on January 1st, 2000, and a year later we had a 40% drawdown. We had the dot-com boom, we had the great financial crisis, we had COVID, we had many other things, but you made over 8 times your money.
All right, so what Larry was getting at is there's basically two types of investors, the ones who don't invest and the ones that do. Right now is a good example of this K-shaped chart. This is investors winning, and everybody else that's not investing, just like a regular person who's getting a W-2, getting a paycheck, that's the 60% that is basically getting beaten every year by inflation. You know how much inflation is going up, but yet at the same time, you're not going out and putting it into any kind of asset, and the asset is the only way that the market wins. So, and you win going forward. Other things that are hitting right now, which is good news, is that finally there's going to be a transfer of wealth, and that is that Gen Z and millennials are going to be, right now 45% of them own crypto. That's a good news. 18% of Gen X and baby boomers do not, but that means that we are going to see 110 trillion in wealth transfer from older generations to millennials and Gen Z in the coming decades. You only know where this is going. This is shifting over to digital assets. A lot of the upstart, whether we see it in AI or the next generation technology products that are going to be coming out in the S&P, this is why you guys need to pay attention to it. One more thing that is hitting on sentiment was this right here. And this, I think, brings hope to a lot of people because hope is really a driver of sentiment. Sentiment is a driver of action. And that means that things change. And right here, Viktor Orban, who has been in Hungary for quite some time, just got ousted in the 2026 results. This could also translate to the United States in terms of the midterms for what's happening in the Trump administration. This again gets back, and there's a lot of other countries that are also facing this kind of scenario. Are we seeing a global shift in this, not only from a macro standpoint, but possibly from a financial standpoint, especially as digital assets start to reign supreme? We're going to be covering this and a lot more as clarity gets closer. Stay tuned. If you like this video, hit like and subscribe, drop a comment down below, and also join our free private member group. The link is in the description.